Hello, and welcome to this installment of our Learning Commons HESI Grammar Review Series, Commas in a Series. While the HESI does focus on a few specific comma placement rules, it doesn't focus on them all. In this video, I will examine where commas are placed in the series and a couple of ways that HESI might present items in the series to test your knowledge. So let's get started. Now, when I've asked the question, why did you put a comma here? Several students over the years have said, because I took a breath. When I was young, a teacher told me to place commas when I take breaths. While that works in a couple of instances, most of the time, you don't necessarily take a breath where a comma is placed. We all breathe at different rates, we all have different speech patterns. So really, knowing where to place a comma requires an understanding of the rules that govern comma placement. When it comes to separating items in a series with commas, the rule that applies is this. Place a comma between each item in a series or list that contains 3 or more items, and always place a comma before the coordinating conjunction that precedes the final item in the series. This rule is applied to the series found in the sentence below. After the procedure, the cardiologist prescribed atorvastatin, clopidogrel, and metoprolol for the patient. In this sentence, we have 3 or more items in a series with a comma between each, including before the final item that is preceded by a coordinating conjunction. You might be asking, do I have to place a comma before a conjunction like and? I've always heard that the comma there was optional. For the HESI, and to generally avoid causing your readers confusion, you should always place a comma before the coordinating conjunction and the last item in the series of 3 or more. This comma is commonly known as the Oxford comma. So yes, you should always place that comma before and any other coordinating conjunction in the series. Take this sentence, for example. I owe all of my success to my siblings, Oprah Winfrey and Walt Disney. In the sentence above, I left out the comma before and. Look what happened. It sounds like I'm a sibling of Walt Disney and Oprah Winfrey. Do you think that I'd be sitting here making HESI grammar videos if I were? Well, maybe. Let me put the comma back in. Okay, now it's clear that my siblings, Mr. Disney and Ms. Winfrey, have all inspired the successful path that I'm on. All right. Let's look at a sample test question to help us discover ways that the test writers might use common mistakes to distract you from selecting the correct choice. Read the test question and pause the video so that you have time to carefully look over each option. After selecting an option, restart the video. Okay, according to the instructions, you are to select the sentence that has no grammatical errors. So let's examine each option carefully. Option A has 4 items in a series, so we know that commas will be needed. While there are commas that follow the first 2 items in a series, there isn't a comma between the 3rd and 4th item. Because that final comma in the series is missing, this option is off the table. You must have that comma before the conjunction and the last item in the series. Option B has 3 items in a series, so we know that the series will require commas. Since we have a comma between each item in the series, then this option is definitely one to consider. Let's move on to option C. It has 2 items in a series. Since 3 or more items are required for commas in a series, then we know right off the bat that this option is problematic because it contains a comma between a series of 2 items. 2 items in a series should not be separated by a comma. So this option is off the table. Option D has 4 items in the series, so we know that this series will require commas. The series does indeed have commas between each item in the series. However, there is a comma after the word include, just before the series begins. That comma is incorrectly placed. You do not place a comma in a sentence in order to introduce a series. So option D is out. Therefore, the only option that is grammatically correct is option B. As you can see, there are a few tricky ways that test writers can tempt you with incorrect options. Well, maybe not tempt you, but perhaps place doubt in your mind. Just remind yourself when commas are and are not used in a series so that you can avoid being distracted by incorrect options. Well, that concludes this presentation on correctly placing commas in a series. For more practice and information on this skill, please check out the links that follow this video on our webpage. If you are a current TCC student, you can also receive more help with this skill by working with one of our specialists or tutors in the Learning Commons. If you feel this video was helpful, please check out our additional HESI grammar review videos on our test review webpage. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you much success when taking the HESI.